Well, hey everybody, it's Gil here with the Sailing Vessel Dream Chaser, and in this week's episode we have all kinds of a little bit of hodgepodge work. That's what we always call it. First thing we're going to do is we want to get the sun cover off the boat. And what's interesting is while the boat's been sitting in Louisiana, our sun cover has been rolled up like a giant burrito and stuffed in the corner of the deck. And there it sat for a long time. And if you think about the humidity in the southern Louisiana, it certainly had some mold on it. So it was time to pull it out, clean it up, and put it up on top of the boat.
We're going to take our sun cover off of the boat, lay it out in the grass, and clean it a little bit. Mainly because it's been sitting on the deck, so all these little seeds that the birds drop are probably all in it, and I don't want that falling all over the deck. So this will at least let us get this thing cleaned up. We decided to go ahead and clean this thing. It wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. Because it was rolled up, though, there are parts that were exposed, or accordion. Parts that were exposed are worse than others. There's kind of lines across it where it was exposed to the weather for the last few years. It's got some mold stains, it looks like, on there. Now, Sailrite says you can use a 50-50 solution of bleach and water, and that's exactly what I'm going to try here on a couple of the spots that are maybe a little bit more stained than others, just to see if it works well before we go and do this everywhere. So I've wet the whole surface here and brushed it with a soft bristle brush, and this is nice and soft. All right, 50-50 here. It's doing it. Not easily, but it's definitely taking it out. So if I let it sit for a little bit, it might even do better. All right, this has been sitting for about 5 or 6 minutes. Doing a pretty good job. Not taking everything off, but better than without it. What would make this easier is having a table out here and then having a nice hard surface below it to use like a smaller brush and work it onto that surface.
That took a little while for sure. It was amazing. That 50-50 bleach and water mixture, letting it sit for about 5 minutes or so, really made a huge difference. Now, I don't know if you can do that on any material, but if you are using Sunbrella material, that's exactly the way Sunbrella recommends you can do it. So it worked pretty well. It's now a matter of putting this thing up. Now, it's been about 3 years since Deb and I put this thing up on the boat. Let's see how efficient we are at getting it back up. Today was a big day. What we ended up doing was getting the canal dredged. This is something we had talked about doing for a while. We didn't know what it really entailed. And interestingly enough, we were talking to one of our neighbors, and he said, "Oh, I just have my area in front of the dock dredged." So like, "Oh, what do you need to do?" And he said, "Oh, you just call the city." So you pay for it. It's about $265 an hour, I think, is what they charge you. But they can't tell you exactly when they're going to be here. They basically just say, when we're in your area, when we're in your canal system near you, we will give you a call and give you 24-hour notice or so. And that's exactly what they did. They called and let us know they were going to be here. They called us on a Friday, so they would be here Monday. So Deb and I needed to move the boat, and it was blowing like snot, and we just didn't want to try to move the boat while it was blowing all that hard in case the wind caught the bow. Didn't want it to have it sort of rotate out the wrong direction here in the canal. But we waited until it just started to get dark, and it was calmed down a little bit in the breeze. That made it a little bit easier. Just incorporated the help of one of our neighbors to grab a line just in case. And let me kind of show you. We moved the boat over. Our neighbor was really nice. He let us just park it at his dock while the work was going to be done. So after getting it over to his dock, it was now time for the dredgers to come. And I tried to get a time lapse of this whole thing. I got some of it, but not all of it. So sorry about that, but you'll see what it looks like kind of in some fast motion. Now, we asked to have it dredged at 8 feet deep at low tide. I wanted to have a couple of feet clearance underneath it all the time. So if I need to dive and scrape the bottom or something, even at the slip, I certainly can. And that was a lot of dirt. So essentially they filled the barge, and then they had to leave, unload it, and come back. Fortunately, because it's all still part of this job, you pay by the hour for them to leave and come back. It wasn't horrible. They were probably gone for about an hour for them to, take the barge elsewhere and then go drop the load wherever they do. So with it dredged, it was time to move the boat back into our slip. And here was the irony of it. Our neighbor's like, "Wow, if they're here, I'd love to have them do mine too." So they wrapped up with my spot, and it was low tide, and I was stuck at his slip. I couldn't get out. I was sitting on the bottom. So I thought, okay, well, worst case, they can come back tomorrow. And he called them and said, "Yep, they can do that." That night, I couldn't get off. The tide never got high enough to get off of it. We even got up in the middle of the night when it was going to be at its highest tide, and we worked on it there. It just happened to be at this week that the tides were a good 1.5 feet lower than everywhere else. I even had the barge guys, while they were here, try and give a little tug on the boat, and I just didn't want to risk breaking anything. It was sitting hard on the mud. So yeah, we had to wait for a couple of days for high tide to float the boat back up, put it back at our slip, and then they came and dredged our neighbors as well. But boy, it is nice having this deep now at 8 feet, even at the very, very lowest of tide. When the top side of the boat is just below the dock, I'm still floating, and that is a nice change of pace, because I used to joke all the time that it looked like a shipwreck out there every time it got to low tide. So my calculations on how many days a year we were going to be on bottom, I kind of thought we'd be 15, 18 days per year. And in the last month and a half we've had the boat here, we've probably been on there about 15 days already. Now, I know this is the lowest tide of the year in the winter, but still, it wasn't comfortable being on the bottom that much. So now that the weather finally cooperated and we were able to move the boat back into our slip, it was time to go ahead and wash it. And there's something enjoyable about this. You're enjoying the sunshine, just taking your time, jamming to some music, and this is my peaceful moment for sure. Well, hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed this week's video. I know it was a little different than many others. We had, like I said, a whole hodgepodge of stuff we'd been doing, and I had some footage of it, and I thought, you know what, we should probably put all this together in a video. These are the realities of having the boat at times. It's not all, it's not all giant projects, and it's not all, beautiful sunshine, beaches and bikinis. So, yeah, that's boat life for sure. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this week's video. We'll see you next Friday for another video on Sailing Vessel Dream Chaser. Bye, y'all. Safe sailing.